The dominoes have been falling for the used and new car market, and it seems as though things have just gotten worse. Now, keep in mind the term worse really is subjective based off of the lens that you're viewing the car market through. For example, if you're a car manufacturer or a car dealership, then you're probably beginning to sweat a bit. And if you're a car buyer who's looking to finance a vehicle, well, things have gotten better, but they are still certainly not ideal. But if you're a cash buyer, then things are actually looking really great. Now, before we dig in, I do want to say a huge and sincere thank you to every single person who watches and supports this YouTube channel. Last month, we surpassed 100,000 subscribers, and just this week, the YouTube silver play button came in the mail, and I just couldn't be happier. Now, I know that this may sound really dumb, but I have had a weird obsession with the YouTube silver play button for like a decade, long before I even thought about starting a YouTube channel. And whenever I was younger, I would watch YouTubers, I would watch them get their silver play button, and I would always be extremely envious of them getting this award, and I always wanted one. And it wasn't until I started my YouTube channel and finally started gaining traction that I realized that I may actually be able to get a YouTube silver play button, so to finally have this is truly a dream come true. But I don't say it often on this channel, but I do want to just express my extreme gratitude to every single one of you, to the people who subscribed recently, to the people who've been OG subscribers. I read all of the comments on my videos, even if I don't respond to them, and I really do appreciate every single one of you, and I just cannot say that enough. I'm extremely excited to have surpassed 100,000 subscribers, but ultimately it wouldn't have been possible without you guys, and I just really want to say thank you. But without further ado, let's dig into the video. Earlier this week, the Federal Reserve announced interest rate hikes again. This time, they rose rates by 75 basis points, and this is the fourth time in a row that the Federal Reserve has raised rates, and it also brings the federal interest rate to the highest point it's been at since the 2008 Great Recession. And what this means to the average consumer is that it is now much more expensive to borrow money, especially compared to this time last year or this time in 2020. One of the best ways that I know how to add context to the impact of interest rate hikes is to talk about it in the context of home mortgages. And while I have talked about this and used this exact example in other past videos, I think that it is such a great example that it is worth repeating. Now, let's say that you're looking to buy a new home and your monthly budget for your monthly mortgage is about $2,200. And assuming that you're able and willing to put 20% down on whatever house you chose to buy, with this monthly mortgage budget in mind, in 2021, you could afford to buy a house in the $425,000 price range. This is because interest rates were really low, so you're able to get a lot of house for your money. While today, if you had that exact same monthly budget in mind, you would only be able to afford a home in the $300,000 range. That's because the average interest rate for a home today in November of 2022 is over 7.4%. And that doesn't even account the most recent interest rate hike that we saw this week. So it's actually going to be higher than 7.4%. For the same monthly payment, you would get $125,000 more house in 2021 than you would get today. And the difference in cost solely lies with the increased interest rate today compared to a year or two ago. So you buy the exact same house or a very similar house, but you have to pay a significantly higher price for that house because interest rates for homes are now exceeding 7%. And the thing is, interest rates are most often talked about in the context of home mortgages, and they are definitely the most impactful to the housing market. But that doesn't mean that they aren't affecting the car market as well, and you are seeing these exact same effects to car loans. And this is having a huge impact on the car market, both new and used as a whole. In fact, the average interest rate for a used car is 9.2%, while the average rate for a new car is 5%. And this does not even take into account the most recent interest rate increases. And it is expected that as a result, used car interest rates will exceed 10%, while new car interest rates will exceed 6%. And this is just averages. Of course, if you have excellent credit, you can probably expect to get something a bit lower, maybe in the 4% range, while if you have poor credit, you should expect to pay much higher, in some cases above 20%. This is where this market shift could actually be bad news if you're a car buyer wanting to finance your next vehicle, because as a result of these interest rate increases that we've seen throughout 2022, buying a car has become significantly more expensive. Though it does get evened out a little bit because of the fact that car prices are going down. So while you are paying a higher interest for money that you borrow, you're paying less for the actual car itself. While this time last year, you were paying less in interest, but you were paying more for the car itself. So there are definitely different ways that you could look at this entire scenario. And while interest rates don't play as significant of a role in the housing market as they do in the automotive market, they still absolutely play a role in supply and demand. And I expect that over the next few months, we will continue to see a dip in demand, in part because of the high interest rates and the high cost of borrowing money. Because the reality is most people finance their new or used car purchase, and it just became even more expensive to do that. But despite the fact that this isn't great news for the person who's wanting to finance their next vehicle purchase, it is in many ways very good news because it will decrease demand on new and used cars, and as a result, prices will continue to fall. Which is great because as of right now, we really need to rely on a decrease in demand in order to increase supply. Because production outlook for the rest of 2022 and going into 2023 still doesn't look great, and automakers are still fighting many of the bottlenecking problems that they've experienced for the better part of the last 2 years, and it doesn't look like these issues will be letting up anytime soon. In fact, just this week, Toyota announced a 25% drop in profit, and once again, they cut its annual output target. And it's not just Toyota that's experiencing these issues. It's expected that the automotive industry will produce between 2 million and 3 million less vehicles than expected next year. And this is in large part due to the chip shortage, which has been plaguing the world, but especially the automotive industry for the better part of 2 years. But the silver lining here is that prices are still falling, despite the fact that there are so many factors playing against us. Now, sure, over the last 6 months, we've seen a decrease in demand, we've seen an increase in interest rates, and we've also seen an increase in repossession and loan delinquencies, which have all been contributing to the decrease in price that we've seen over the last few months. But there are more changes to come that will cause the car market to go down even further. For example, the economy will probably get worse before it gets better, vehicle production will get much better over the next couple of years, and repossessions and loan delinquencies will increase even more, and thus it will contribute to vehicle prices going down further. And in the meantime, despite the fact that we are far from the market bottom, you can still find cars that are pretty decent deals. For example, just this week, I bought a fully loaded Hyundai Tucson for $9,000, while this exact Tucson sold back in August for $12,500. This is good news all the way around, and though it certainly isn't ideal if you're somebody who's wanting to finance their next vehicle purchase, if you're somebody who's wanting to pay cash, you're really in a good position. Or alternatively, if you're someone with exceptional credit, you could probably still get into a financed vehicle at a decent interest rate. And the Federal Reserve is hinting at the fact that they probably won't be raising interest rates any further, which will be good news for anybody who's wanting to borrow money anytime soon. But obviously, time will tell, as we definitely don't know for sure. But with that being said, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you some valuable insight into the current state of the used and new car market, specifically in the context to borrowing money and the interest rates that come along with that. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.